Against this right back, Charlie, definitely.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
Because you always use that active when defenders have been given, like. Because you always use that active when defenders have been given, like.
Oh, a lot of people, that one was an accident.
Defenders have been given, like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on. Like the man Ian Wright said, people deluded, I'm back again. Appreciative to everybody tuned in. It's another Arsenal fan show. Before we carry on, people, you always hear you're part of the furniture. We've got a new guest, Gunner King. Let them know how you are, where you're from, all of those sort of things. Appreciative of you joining me on my platform, bro, man.
Respect and love, man. I've been following you.
Come on, my guy. Come on.
Time, all love, man. Yeah, like, so obviously after yesterday's result, still a little wounded. But yeah, like, bro, little wound is probably a massive understatement.
Keep your thoughts on the game, bro. Keep your thoughts. I'm sure you and A got a lot to say, and I'm happy because I'm done speaking about it, my guy, man. But you have a YouTube channel. Let them know as well where they can find you as well, man.
Yeah, man. So I can be found on the Armoury TV, one of the co-founding members.
Come on.
So yeah, we post like almost daily on there. Also on TikTok, Gunner King 14. My Twitter as well. My Twitter handle's the same. My Instagram handle's the same, but like that's like kind of new. But mostly you can find me on my YouTube channel, my TikTok. So the Armoury TV for the YouTube, Gunner King 14 on TikTok as well. So I post a lot of content on there. I do a lot of lives on there as well.
Come on.
Yeah, very active, man. Do you know what I mean?
Come on. People, make sure you're following him on all of them things. When the stream is done, every one of the MANDEM subscription stuff and all of that stuff will be in the description, people. So make sure you check that out. Lads, let's address the elephant in the room, man. Yesterday, boss. You lot, someone take the floor, man. It's an all-inclusive platform. I'm tired of hearing my voice. I'm tired of speaking about the game. You lot take it away, man.
You know what it is? Like, I'll be honest, my head was already flying from like minute 15 or 20. When I see Saliba holding his back like that, I said, I can't lie.
Bro.
Tommy as well.
Like, Tomiyasu's one, obviously, we need as big a score as possible, yeah?
You have to be nice to him. I never saw it personally. But
I hear that. But I saw the slip in it, so I can see what's happened. But Saliba, out of nowhere, I just see my man walking, holding his back. I said, like, has someone kicked him? Has someone punched him? Has he? Like I don't know what's happening. Already, my head is flying. And then, to be honest, I think from 1-0, yeah, I think we're kind of comfy. Like, I wasn't really stressing whatsoever. I was thinking, all right, get a second and a third. Saka and Odegaard can sit on the bench and be ready for Sunday. And then my man hits it from like 55 yards for no reason. And that's it. Suddenly, the Sporting fans, they had all their flares and smoke grenade. I'm thinking they were going to go to waste because I didn't even see their fans for the first hour. And then out of nowhere, I just start seeing flags everywhere. I said, yeah, I can't lie. Long day, but is what it is. It happens, man. European pedigree is
It's humble. Gunner King, man. What's your thoughts on the game, man? Don't hold back, man. Everything and anything, man.
Honestly, like watching that game, that's probably the best that I've seen a team perform at the Emirates. Like in terms of like they actually played us at our game and for large parts played it better. Like the press, do you know what I mean? Like in terms of like when we build up out from like into the 2-3-5 shape, yeah, like the way that they kind of like made their forwards narrow, yeah, so that they was facing our defenders all the time. So when Tomiyasu at first and then White, when when Saliba and Gabriel were trying to play up from the back, they weren't getting no joy.
Yeah.
Like it was seeing what we do to teams. Like they were making it very difficult to get our own half. And when they had the ball, they were playing it nice. But the thing is, we got the goal, and I think, you know, I felt the same. You know, like now we can because we started to kind of get into the game and get into a rhythm of the game. And I was thinking, right, the seconds come out of nowhere. This guy just hits this
disrespectful.
And the thing is, you know what? The European final in the 90s, where what is it? That Limpar guy that did the same thing. The lob on Seaman as well. It had the same hallmarks, bro. Because I was old enough to see that. I don't know.
Yeah, you've got bare PTSD from
I
this.
was watching that final. I felt the pain that day.
Came in Europe, man.
Seaman backpedaling, yeah, just trying to get that ball, and he was not getting there, bro. Yeah, I was having flashbacks, yeah. But the thing is, as well, with the Saliba injury, yeah, it's around the same time last season when Partey and Tierney went on international duty, came back, got injured. Yeah, all these PTSD triggers, bro.
Like you said, it's international break after this weekend as well. It's scary, man.
It's scary times, bro. Yeah, but for me, the worst part is, I've been saying, I was just doing a live earlier on TikTok. For me, it's great that we're in this league title thing, bro. But for me, I
don't check the league table, but take it away, man.
30 years no European silverware. For me, I was 11 years old last time we won
the 27. I weren't even out here, but it's peak.
Yeah, likewise, fam.
That's the worst part. Because I look at it, this Europa League thing, we beat United. I'm looking at all the other teams that are in the Europa League. I'm looking at how Arsenal are playing. I'm looking at relative to all of the Europe's other top 5 leagues, where we are. We are outperforming pretty much everyone bar Napoli. Do you know what I mean? That was there for the taking, bro.
They might go on and actually win the big one, really and truly. Do you think we're naive in Europe then? Because I personally saw shades of Olympiacos, and during my live streams that I've been doing in the build up to the games, obviously the game against at Lisbon's place, it weren't good enough in it, and I think there was carbon copies of that. But I went back to the Olympiacos because we didn't kill it in the first leg. We provoked them to be inspired, and like you man said, when you score a goal of that magnitude with the conditions of this game for their away fans, they're gonna get behind it really and truly. So do you not think we're naive in games? And also I would say on that, because Gunnar, you also mentioned they did to us what we do to teams. Do you think we're kind of getting found out now?
I wouldn't say it's a found out thing, to be honest with you. I would say more so the drop off from the main 11 to even just the 14, 15. Like you were saying there before, you look at Juve, United, whatever, we could, at full strength, I would be comfy we can beat all of them. But the issue is we're not going to go full strength in every Europa game. We knew that already. We haven't been doing so from the start. Maybe if we got to the semis, perhaps, sure, we'd start putting out our main 11. But with, let's say, a midfield of Jorginho, Xhaka, and Vieira, I can't lie. I'm not trying to play too many Europa games and expect us to be at the same level that we would be with our first 11. It's unfortunate. It's annoying. Obviously, like you said, you've seen us win something European. I haven't. All I saw was Campbell bullet header, and then we still lost.
Nah, don't get me started.
I don't have any joy in that department.
Barcelona need to get convicted, run off our trophy immediately. Immediately.
I need the league title first and foremost. That would have been an added bonus for me to win the Europa. It's unfortunate, but we're in this scenario now. We cannot affect it. So
why would you say it's an added bonus? Because if I play devil's advocate, if we go back to August, surely the Europa League, time changes everything, but surely the Europa League looked more feasible than a league trophy. Now, clearly, we found ourselves in what we're in.
Yeah, but what's more feasible isn't the one that's better, right? You could say winning the league is more feasible than Champions League. It doesn't mean that Champions League isn't the one.
True, you're right. Devil's advocate, man, you know me.
No, you feel free.
I feel like, though, at the same time, and I was just saying this, right? And this is going to sound crazy. Obviously, if you are weighing up a league title compared to a Europa League, you're taking the Premier League, however, if you weigh in the nuance of Arsenal's situation, no league title for 29 years, 3 decades.
We ain't got one in this new stadium.
Listen, I don't give a damn. I'll go up against any Chelsea man, and I'll say we're the 3rd biggest club in England. I don't rax, they got
we still are, man. We got the streets.
They had 2 decades. We've had nearly a century. That's a different conversation, But
come on,
for me, the thing is, we could win another league title. We got 13. That'll make it 14. Chelsea have got 6. Spurs have got 2. so they're not even in this conversation.
How old are they, man?
But even Spurs have a Europa League. Tottenham, Chelsea, sorry, they have a completed cabinet. So for me, but when we had returned to Europe at the beginning of the season, I wasn't expecting us to challenge for the title. I was thinking top 4, get that Europa League trophy. Because for me, the completed cabinet is very important. Do you know what I mean? Like, because Chelsea, they got a completed cabinet. If we complete the cabinet, the conversation with these man ends. Like, it just ends. Like, you know, I don't give a damn what they say. They could have an extra Champions League. They could have an extra Europa League. We would have won every trophy they've won, but we would have won more at the same time, like volume-wise. So for me, I'm like, even though I've always, look, when I was younger, it was red. There was no debate. No one chatted to us. You know what I mean? Chelsea entered the Premier League era. They only had 5 trophies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I was
so used to that status quo. I just want to go back to it. You know what I mean? Where it's just not a conversation with these man. Where it's just like, you know what? Just go chat to Tottenham, innit? Go chat them.
I don't think anyone. I don't think Tottenham want to talk to anyone based on what they're doing, man. There's always a silver lining.
For me, like Europa League was bigger than like a lot of Arsenal fans are like, yeah, fair enough. A league title is bigger. Just looking at it on that face value, because it's a bigger ticket trophy. Let's be real. But by the same token, like, covering the gaps in our European history for me, and what that means for just ending that debate, because Chelsea have made a debate now, unfortunately. They have. Like, ending that debate with them, that means a lot to me. Do you know what I mean? Because for me, it's like, you want to be the flag bearer of your city. You don't want it like Man United, Man City. It's not a debate. Man City have stat-padded trophies for the last 10 years. It's not a debate. Liverpool,
you know,
Liverpool and Everton, it's not a debate. Like, for me, I just want it to not be a debate again. Do you know what I mean? Like, so a man are telling me it's a debate, and looking at the standard of the other teams in the competition compared to how we're playing, as you say, yeah, if we played our strongest team, we're beating everyone in that competition. But
yeah, but if I play devil's advocate, to you, sorry to cut you, but if I play devil's advocate to you, Sporting were missing a lot of players. Are we ever gonna have our strongest team? And surely, on the basis of what we saw against Sporting, respectfully to Sporting Lisbon, who've earned the right, surely the team's only going to get better. Like, you got Sevilla, you got Juventus, you got Man United potentially. You know, whether we can beat them is another thing. I believe we can. But could these naiveties have played us at a deeper time? And I'm not saying that I'm happy we've gone out because it would have happened, but is it as rosy as some Arsenal fans may believe in terms of the level that we might think these boys are at? Nobody that's listening, make no mistake that I believe we've made fantastic progress. But yeah, what would you lot say to that?
It's a very techie one, isn't it? Because like, you're seeing polar opposites of people whose head is so hot, they're saying like, Arteta, this is a disgrace, like, Edu, what have you done? And then you have the opposite, which is like, oh, this is incredible. I never wanted to play Europa anyway. Like, obviously, there's got to be a middle ground where you want to go and win everything. 100%. Of course you do. But it's, I guess, dealing with the circumstances in front of you. If we're being 100% honest, especially after this morning, obviously, we've seen the Champions League draw and Europa League draw doesn't mean anything to us because United aren't. They thought they were in the title race, but obviously they're not. But Man City having to play, Bayern, and then
the winner of Chelsea and Real Madrid.
It's peak, yeah, it's peak. They've done nice to the other European clubs. I can't lie.
Yeah, it does look a bit better for us in that department because obviously you don't want to be playing. We would have had to play Juventus, I guess, if it had gone according to what Sporting got this morning. So I don't know, man. I think it's not the worst thing in the world to just have 11 games to focus on. Every single, you know exactly from now till May, you know every game you have. There's not going to be any random games added or any games to reschedule, as far as I'm aware. Maybe like a Friday, Saturday change here and there. It's not the worst thing in the world, man. But what I was saying to what you said before, you were playing devil's advocate. I'm also going to be the other devil to play the other advocate as well, yeah.
We got other advocates
on Twitter, the stat about Sporting Lisbon against Man City 2012 or whatever. You said it's more important to have the European thing, and I hear your reasonings for that. But if I look at that Aguero season, where obviously they beat Man United, whatever, last game of the season, I don't think anyone's asking, but why did Man City lose in the Europa League? I don't think anyone even cares. I don't think anyone even.
When you put it like that, that's yeah.
No one cares.
That's assuming we go and win this league title as much as we're ticking along.
That's why I'm saying, like, but when you win the league title, whatever happened in Europe, no one cares. Nobody really cares like that unless it's Champions League. Then it's different. Then you have Liverpool finishing 5th and then they go win Champions League, or Chelsea can be like 9th or 10th and win Champions League. I think the Europa and UCL gap is a bit
different,
wider than what we're making out to be, in my opinion.
But I think there's another thing though. Like, I think there is a difference, like when we play in Europe and when we play domestically. Not just this season, not just that game, but in general. And I think that's kind of been cultivated from when it's been 3 decades since you've won something in Europe and you've had like those finals. You know, the Besiktas one that sticks to mind as well. You know, like where.
Had some L's out here, man.
You've held those L's where, like, obviously it creates like this stigma. You go into Europe and you feel like that you don't have that same assuredness. And I feel like watching that game, they didn't have the same assuredness.
Do you think we get a culture shock? I think that's a great point. Do you think we get a culture shock when we back these teams? Because I think PSV away, we kind of got that kind of shock to the system as well.
You know, like, and you look at like the last couple of seasons going out to Villarreal. You know, in the semi-final when we had a better team, we had a better
even that Emery came back to bite us. Yeah,
like, you know, and I think when you're looking at it, I think what I am mindful of is kind of this pattern where, like, do we have the same belief that we have domestically that we do when we go to Europe, that we can play our game and outplay anyone? Because even when we were bad those times, like, Arsenal had their DNA, like we were passing, like, you know, where like
we could do a thing.
Arguably,
we had some of the best football.
If we were attacking someone, we
for these things.
Yeah, like, and that's what I worry about. Like, you know, like I think that's why I thought the Europa League would be kind of like riding your bike with the stabilizers before you've learned to ride it without them. Like you go and win this Europa League, and then next season, when you're back in the Champions League, you kind of like you've rubbed that monkey off your shoulder. Do you know what I mean? Where you've done something in Europe now. It might not be like the main thing. Then you take the stabilizers off and you go to the Champions League next year or two, and you actually have that kind of confidence and that belief, you know, that you can actually win that trophy. And that's the only thing that is starting to really kind of get to me and like concern me a bit. You know?
Do you know what you lot are saying? Yeah, you lot are saying some great points, and it's making me think about our team. It's like, it's obviously we've shown across the course of this season that we can compete, we can whatever, but obviously in the league, you kind of know you've always got next week until May comes, obviously. And this was a 2-legged tie. You know, in the first leg, we probably thought, all right, we didn't do well. Let's go to the Emirates. Do we kind of have that handicap? Because obviously there were fine margins that went for us, went against us. Penalties is a lottery. But end of the day, there was 180 minutes of football. And regardless of us talking about squad players in or out the team, they never had their strongest 11. They had suspensions and injuries and the rest of it. So is it kind of that? I wouldn't say not a will to win, because we have shown that against Bournemouth and things. But as you know, the margins get bigger. Is it because we don't quite grasp the concept of it's us or them? We're going out today if we do not do whatever. Because yesterday, I did think we wanted it, but it just looked like a bit of a culture shock to some players. And we just didn't have the best of days. Like, I think Rob Holding's probably not good enough for Arsenal Football Club. But watching the game again, you know, I would have had a lot of energy from him watching it first time. But second time, he's actually one of our better players. And if I'm saying that about him, where there's a significant drop-off, what am I saying about Zinchenko and this guy and that guy and the third? Like, is it naivety from our players and potentially Arteta then? Because we ain't done too well even under Arteta in Europe. Well, we haven't.
I would say it's the same thing that I was talking about last week, which is I don't want it to be the case, but then someone in your chat just said it as well. It's very clear to see that they are in two minds about giving 110%. Sporting, they have the international break. They have no more games now. This is like this is their game for their lives. They ain't really competing for anything in Portugal either like that. You could tell the main 11, even Zinchenko, for example, last week away in Lisbon, wasn't at his best.
Yeah, but was he one in Europe though? Not to make it about him. What is he or the players one? Unless you're Jorginho off the top of my head.
I agree with you. Of course, that's what I'm saying. It's not a good thing. I'm just saying that I can clearly see, having just watched Fulham, which is probably one of our best performances of the season, in my opinion.
Against the team performing quite well, but we made them look leading.
To a couple days later, what we seen at home yesterday, I can't imagine that they'll play like that if this was a league game or if it was a final or something. But obviously, that's not to justify it. There's still an issue at hand if they don't want to give 100%. But I guess you got to allow it a little bit if they do end up finishing the season well. And like you said, I don't look at the league table, but just get as many points as you can.
Arteta obviously made changes because obviously I understand, you know, like you can't necessarily put out your strongest 11, you know, like all the time. If you got a game, you know, yesterday and then you got that game against Palace, which for me, in terms of like the context of winning the league, it's season defining. For me, I think if you win that, even though it's a game in hand and you create an 8-point gap between you and City, like obviously City have been there and done it. You're creating that kind of catch me if you can kind of like pressure.
And we need that definitely. There's 11 cup finals left, as they kept saying. You're right on that.
Stick that on City, you know, like we need to stick that on City. So I think like what he thought is I'm gonna like obviously take some players out, and I fully agree with that. I think maybe the one questionable one I think is did he have to take Odegaard out? Because Odegaard is like he's like the metronome. Do you know what I mean?
Like you said, with the European thing, you know, like you said, I understand the rotation and all of that jazz, but end of the day, knockout stage Europa League, you Sporting Lisbon have nothing to lose, fear factor. Can you afford to leave your captain out? I'll see why he played Vieira playing a Portuguese team and all of that, but I agree with the Odegaard one. I'd say for me, Partey, because, you know, Xhaka's done well this season and ultimately scored his 5th goal, but that trio, the nucleus in midfield, one issue of us recently or one weakness has been those transitions. So I do agree with his changes. I like the fact that he kind of played his strongest back 5, excluding Tomiyasu at the moment, who's a good player. But I would have loved to have seen Odegaard. I think Partey had to play in that game. I thought we saw, while Jorginho's done well this season, Xhaka as well, I thought we saw in the first leg, they're not really the most mobile. They're in issues. And arguably, you know, it's a screamer of a goal, but them two have kind of messed about in the middle of the park. And 9 times out of 10, that finish ain't going to happen. Arguably, Saka could have started as well, rest or not. Take them off if required, surely.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really want to get too into Arteta because I know like what he is balancing is the thin squad. Like we're at the stage where, like, for me, he's cultivated the first 11. The first 11 players.
I agree.
Like, you know, like 12, 13, 15 players. That's when it gets sticky. Like, can I do these changes? And I think Vieira, you can see the qualities there, but I think he needs. In order for him to be like match ready, he needs a run of games. But we're not really at that point where we can. Where the squad,
we can't.
You can't give it to him at this stage. You know what I mean? So I get what Arteta's wrestling, and I think hindsight is also a wonderful thing. You know, I'm not gonna like come on here and have a meltdown and be like,
no, it's not a meltdown thing.
100%. But yeah, for me, I do think. Is there an element where we probably thought it would be easier to beat Sporting than it would have been?
Yeah. I'll fancy it as well.
Because it's at home. We've been playing so well at home. We can be forgiven for that as well, isn't it? Like, you know, like,
we thought we could get away with it. Nelson's been all right. Fabio's got a reason. Jorginho, to be fair to him, as I said, it's not to scapegoat because he's been good since he signed for us, whether we believe in him or not. But I do think we need to play our strongest team in that regard. Do you lot agree with this comment? Like, we're not ready to compete on 2 fronts yet. And also, I'd say to you, Gunner King, because this is your debut on the channel, what do you also make of Fabio Vieira as a player? You kind of touched on it, but I've never just asked you, what do you think of him as a player and all those things?
Well, I mean, me and Lemon Seals, we were just doing a TikTok live about this earlier. And like, I will go for it again. I do think we could have competed for both. You know, like, I think when you look at Palace, one, apparently their 2 main keepers are injured, so they're using an academy keeper. They've been a free-fall. Vieira's just been sacked. They've not got a win in 2023. With the greatest respect,
12 actually now as well. Yeah, it's peak for them.
Yeah, like they've been, you know, we're playing them at home. I'm thinking, you know, like, okay, and like, you know, like there's 3 or 4 days between when we're going to play them and we're at home, so there's no travel involved. I'm thinking, do you know what? Like, after that, there's an international break. Now, most of our players are under the age of 25, and they're not established first-team players, you know, like in most of their international teams. So a lot of those players wouldn't have actually featured in those friendlies.
Just a training thing, really, isn't it?
It's just been a training team when they're at home. So it's like, do you know what? You can afford to risk playing more of your stronger players, in my opinion, like for both of the games, because it's just like, well, if there was other games after it, then I would have been thinking maybe, you know, like,
and he went really strong in the group as well of this tournament.
I do know you have to look like 4, 5, 6 games
go on
down the line or whatever. I do agree that you do have to like look further down the line than just your next game, but
100% you got to play the game.
You know, for me, like I said, you know, like European silverware, even if it's only Europa League,
It's
is
something,
massive.
man.
It's massive. Like it's
Man's
massive.
my age
I
ain't
think-
seen that. We ain't seen that. I've seen us get to 2 finals, disgrace ourselves.
yeah,
You're right on
and
the European point.
and I just think, you know, like Arteta, I think Vieira, by the way, like I think his quality. I do think, like, you know, he's definitely got the quality, and from a technical perspective, like what he can do with the ball and on the ball, I don't question for a second. Like I think he's already got a very good level.
You can see why
I
we
think,
bought him.
yeah, you can see it, but I think playing in our system, when you play as that 8, what Odegaard does without the ball gets overlooked a lot. Like this guy covers so much
I knew
ground.
there was a reason I should invite you on my channel. Thank you very much. That's commented the live stream, but go on, man. I'm killing it.
This is why Xhaka is allowed to stay further up the field, because Odegaard's doing the press behind him. Xhaka's playing further forward, actually, yeah. So when you put Vieira there, and he hasn't quite developed physically, you know, like the athleticism, like the stamina, and the physicality, like being muscled off the ball, Odegaard won't have that because he's already kind of cultivated into that system. And I think to develop to play as an 8 in Odegaard's particular role in our system, it's not just about being technical. You need that kind of, you need that needs to be underpinned with
Odegaard's our second defender, along with Jesus. It's them lot that organize the press from the front.
Yeah, they lead the press. Yeah, they engage it high up. They're the ones that are turning over the possession higher up the pitch. So I just think that's the only part of Vieira's game that he needs to develop, and that's going to take a bit of time. But like, yeah, I think he's quality. He does have quality, and I just think if he can do that, like it's easier to develop that side of your game than your technique.
Yeah,
do you know what I
if
mean?
you ain't got the technique by 20 in his 20s, then it's not going to be there, in it. Physically, you just need to hit gym and eat better food, and you're good, really. Bernardo's done it, and then there's several other players, really. So you're right on that, really. Facts. So what do you make of Arteta as a gaffer yourself?
Mate, he's unreal. Like I think, like when you look at the way that we've been playing, like the level of control that we've got in games, like I think the Bournemouth game was a record in the Premier League era for the most amount of possession that you keep. And I know possession isn't everything, but like the game now is evolving towards control. Like if I have the ball, the opponent can't do anything. Yeah, they can't do anything. Like they can't do anything without the ball. What can I do with the ball? How do I build up play from like the defense at the back to the midfield into the final third?
There's almost like micro systems all over the field as well. It's crazy, man.
When the defenders are being pressed, how can they play out of the press? All of these triangles, all these patterns of play is very situational, and you can see that he's drilled that into them. But like what Arteta has also done is he's rebuilt the culture of the club. You know what I mean? Well, like
I think that's the most important thing he did. When he signed for us, he said we need to sing from the same hymn sheet. Atmosphere's got to improve.
This is what it is to play for Arsenal Football Club. You know, these are my non-negotiables. You know, if you're with it or you're not, you know, like, you know, like bringing back almost like the Tony Adams kind of like play for the name, the badge on the front, so they remember the name on the back kind of ethos. You know, he's got these young players, and I think we went down the Pepe route, we went down the Ozil's, Alexis Sanchez route, Oba route, Lacazette route. We've kind of gone back to our roots, where it's like Wenger was like, yeah, like, you know, we're gonna do this from scratch. You know, we're gonna build players up from the ground up, and we're gonna develop this system that suits them. And he's done all of this, man. He's brought the backroom in that suits him. Do you know what I mean? He's got the fans actually believing in the team.
Man away, yeah, facts.
You know, like if you cast your minds back to 18 months, 2 years ago, going to a match. You got your inners, your outers, your shake it all about us, all going at each other.
It was definitely not a nice place, man. Like I remember the Crystal Palace game at home where Xhaka did the mad thing. So you're right, it's cast me back down memory lane to see what we're doing now.
Like, bringing the fans back together, like Arteta's done all of this, you know, like, and it's taken time. It's been difficult. Sometimes he's had to take a step backwards to take 2 steps forwards, but for me, he's one of the best performing managers in the world at the moment. He just doesn't have like the major honors to prove it. But when you look at like even City, 36% possession, that's never happened under any team that Pep's managed. Okay, we lost the game, bro, but like we were
There's building
controlling the
blocks, man. There's
football
potential there. Facts.
against the controllers of football in Europe at the moment. Like you can see
Get
where this is
Guardiola.
going. He just needs a couple more players, you know, that kind of are going to help him, and a bit more experience. The players that he's currently got, they'll take that experience from yesterday, by the way.
They have to. They have to, because when they woke up today, like how all of us probably did, that's the first thing that went through your mind. And it's, you know, there's many stages to defeat. There's anger, there's all of this, but I'm sure we all, us three, woke up today and it's that acceptance now. It's not that it's bleak, but it's that acceptance. And the players, because I do think they care. I don't think they necessarily went out there not to win, of course, and whatnot, but you can't go back in time. So like I hope with last season, domestically, we saw how it ended. Take it moving forward with Europe. You lot, both of you have indirectly kind of spoken about like our first 11. We've got a strong 11. We maybe have 13, 14 players. So how many players would you say, not necessarily positions, or you can if you want, how many are we off then? Because next season, probably we're going to be in the Champions League and we want to go as far as we can and all the other cups. How much are we off a player then or two for you lot?
Well, it depends for like what for, as into...
You look at our squad, you look at whoever our strongest 11 is, like, what, off the top of my head, probably Saliba, everybody fit, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko at the moment, Benjamin White, Ramsdale, Xhaka, Partey, Odegaard, Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, or Trossard, whoever you want for that left wing in it. But yeah, you look past that now, and probably the attackers that are not listed are on the bench. What's like, how many numbers are we off?
I'll word it like this then. I'd say we have 3 positions that we don't have a good backup for. Or let me not say not good. We don't have the drop off is too big, basically, from the starting to the backup. So, for example, we have Bukayo Saka. After that is obviously we have Reece Nelson, hold tight him as well. That we know that's our guy. But it's Reece Nelson and Marquinhos. They're not Saka.
Marquinhos on alone, so that tells you everything for at least this season.
We then have
next year.
Partey and Xhaka. We do not have like after Xhaka is going to be what, like Lokonga comes back, or like literally Patino might come in or something. I don't know. Either way, there's not enough backup there. And then of course Thomas Partey. I mean, I've been there since, like, I was gassing up the Aston Villa goal because, you know, it was funny and dunking on Chelsea fans. But I'll be honest from the start, man. I can't see how guys are saying that Jorginho is meant to keep Partey out of the team once he comes back or whatever. I wasn't hearing that. I'm still not hearing it. So those 3 positions, I would say we don't have sufficient backup for. The thing with, I would have said right centre back as well, but with Saliba, it's like we could in theory play Ben White there and then put Tomiyasu right back if he's fit.
But they're both injured at the moment.
Tomiyasu is also a natural centre back as well.
I'm on playing him there now, you know. I think Benjamin White will move back over there at some point. But if they were both fit and Saliba was out, because Tomiyasu is a bit more conservative, he's better in the air, he's more defensive minded. Not to diss him, because he has got an okay passing range. But when you're playing as a centre back, you're kind of limited for options unless you want to force it in a good way, like Gabriel. Benjamin White's more adventurous. He links up better with Saka in that. So yeah, you're right with that. But right centre back, I'd agree.
Last week though, you're speaking about these injuries now, and I was gassing up a certain somebody. He could have been handy in a penalty shootout as well, but they were all hating him.
Ainsley Maitland-Niles, come on, man.
Taking a penalty, Ainsley
Maitland-Niles instead of Martinelli. I hear that. Big up Martinelli, man.
I think for me, I do look at that right back area as well, because like Tomiyasu now, I think there's been too many times where he's come back from injury. He's kind of going through what Tierney went through in the earlier stages of his career at Arsenal, where he's coming back and he's consistently breaking down, like, you know, like, and I think I am kind of looking at that area as well. I agree with all the other areas. Maybe do you look at like a striker of like a proper 9 profile?
I know this is going,
different. You know what I mean? Where like at the moment we got a false 9 kind of striker, like, or 2 with Trossard that can like operate and drift into channels and interchange with either of the wide players, so that they kind of get into shooting positions. But I mean, like a proper old, not old school, but like
someone we could definitely hit balls in the box. I know Arteta doesn't want to do that, but I'm with you. I'd like another striker. I know you got Balogun out on loan. Eddie's doing well, as you mentioned. A couple of the false guys. It's a bit techie, innit? Because either we scout someone that can do that, or you spend that little bit of bread for all these household names that we all get linked with. I can't see us. We're not going to get Osimhen. I'd love to be proven wrong, but we're not going to shell out 100-odd million for him after we've got Jesus. So I don't know. I would love to find another Alexis Sanchez, someone that can kind of do it all, but I wouldn't mind. If it's up to me, I think we need a 6. I think we need an 8. I agree with you with the right back thing. I think we need a right back. And if you could, it's not by force. If you could find that attacking player that's either a striker or not like Trossard, but Trossard, or better yet, Jesus, that you can fill in other roles, why not? Because the margins only get bigger and bigger in the Champions League. And as much as I love what Arteta is doing, it's not that people are clocking it, you know, because when you're the MV and everybody loves how you play football, they're going to study it. And most importantly, the people who don't like you are going to do that. And naturally, you know, against Arsenal, even though we've broken down low blocks, that's not a strength of ours right now. We still have a bit of naiveties. You know, you knock it into the channels. Bit like yesterday, the first and second balls were not winning. So I would like players that can kind of freshen it up, because even games that we've turned teams over, there has been periods where even slightly against Everton at home, where I thought, yeah, with your point with a striker, maybe if we had like a Giroud sort, I know people look at him with rose tints at Arsenal, but that would be good. I don't know. I think you made a great point with Tomiyasu. I think Tomiyasu, in hindsight, in terms of confidence and fitness, he looks like a man that has to play all the time. Maybe that stops him breaking down. I do think people are being a bit harsh on Tomiyasu, just like they are with Smith Rowe, who played no part yesterday, if I can remember, in that they were players for us last year and they're kind of turning on them. I know you can't rest on your laurels, but yeah, man, I think if we're not going to improve anything, for me, it has to be midfield. I love what Xhaka brings. I think he could be a squad player. I love Partey and whatnot, but I just think we're missing a trick in the middle of the park, bro. I really do.
I think, 100%. I think, the 6 and the 8s are the main priorities. I think Saka, I'm worried about, like, my concern with him is burnout. I think the left side sorted now with like Martinelli, Trossard, Nelson.
Enough options over there, yeah.
Like, Vieira isn't a natural, like, he can invert as a winger on the right hand side, but he's more of a natural 8, I think, or a 10 if you're gonna. And we're not reverting to a 4-2-3-1 system. So for me, I think like you do have to kind of look at that right hand channel and be like, you know, what can we do to bring someone in, to bring in a bit of rotation and freshness, you know, on that side, so that we're not losing anything when we bench Saka. And I think that's important as well. I think if we did, I mean, like, you can bring in, like, you know, I know we're linked to Fresneda,
the young lad, the right back,
and he wouldn't be expensive, and then you can kind of, you know, shell out a bit more. You got your Rices that we're linked to. I really like McAllister from Brighton.
I like him as well, man. I'm a big fan of him now. I wasn't always convinced. Now I'm on the hype train. I
think he could slot into that Xhaka role quite nicely. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the guy I've looked at that I think, would interest me. And I know we're looking at Diaby from Leverkusen as well.
Would that work in theory, though? Because, you know, obviously, I'm not one to get hung up on he plays on the left, he plays on the right. Obviously, you can have your favoured side, but you're a professional footballer. You should be able to play both roles. When you look at his underlying numbers and all of the metrics that the journalists say, it looks like there's quite some contrast with how he plays on the right and on the left. Now, you've got Bukayo Saka there. Is it a lot? It's a bit like if we went and got Rafinha. Are you going to put Saka back over there? Are you going to spend that money to have a backup option? I don't think so. But at the same time, I know we're not City, but they do it. They've got Alvarez. Grealish was £100 million man on the bench once upon a time, and a wealth of them. So surely a natural byproduct, as soon as you get better and better, you have to kind of buy these players. And literally, it's a fighting out thing. You always see it at City. Foden, Kevin, Bernardo. There's always a second where they're not in the team. And then they want it a bit like Grealish now, where they're the first names on the team sheet. So I do think we're kind of crossing over into that territory now, lads, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Do you know what the joke is?
Go on.
Marcus Edwards, both legs.
Yeah.
On that right-hand side. Cuts in on that left-hand side, left foot.
He's been doing that since at Victoria.
Listen, go get him. If they went and gone and got him, because I don't think he would break the bank, like relative to like some of the signings that we could be doing. Like, I think he would cost a lot less than Diaby for sure. And we've seen firsthand, like, he cooked us, both legs.
Yeah, he actually was unfortunately knocked a bag as well.
Yeah, like he's got something, like, for sure. And he plays the same way because he's quite short. He's got that low center of gravity where he can turn
shoulders and
like body feint, and he's looking to get a shot off. He can thread balls into the box. He can go on the outside as well. Like, yeah, I mean, go get him. Like, you know,
get someone, man. I think we need players. Would you look say we're ready for the champs then?
I don't know about that one. For me, if you are gonna spend the money on getting a winger or whatever attacker, I think you just go for a pure numbers machine, because I don't see dissimilarities between Marcus Edwards and, let's say, what Reece Nelson can do when he's at his best. And getting minutes or whatever. So I wasn't as moved as everyone else was, it seemed. I don't know. Like, he's good, don't get me wrong. And especially against Spurs in Champions League, he was cooking. But I think if you're going to spend money, go all out and get someone that you know will bring you numbers like week in, week out. I'm not sure Marcus Edwards is going to at any point take Saka's spot, to be honest. And
because he's a project player, isn't it? Like, you would like, you wouldn't come with like, you would need to
got some of those already in the second position. So I don't know.
That's a good point. It's a good point. It's a good
we
point.
do have Dewsbury in the academy as well. This guy's looking.
Yeah, he's lit. So if I said to you, yeah, you got one option, yeah, not that we're not necessarily going to buy players, but you can spend that significant money on centre mid or these wide men's, these striker. I mean, let's just say it's striker / winger. Where you lot going with that?
Oh, centre mid for me. Easily. Whoever it may be, centre mid is needed like by force. Our front three / 4-5, whatever you want to call it now. I'm not going to say I'm comfortable with it. Obviously, you can always get better, but when everyone's fit, I'm calm with it. And even with 1 or 2 out, we can still, like we have been for the last couple months, get a job done. I think if we have a couple midfielders out, yeah, long day. Like, write it off. To be honest with you, write it off. So.
I actually miss El Nene, and I love El Nene, what he brings to the club and that. But El Nene is a player. I see him a bit like Rob Holding in a nice way, and that I shouldn't be talking about your absence. I like what you bring to the table. I would have loved his mobility as well. Big up Jorginho, because you gave me a lot more confidence without that. But I'd lean towards midfield as well. But then, God forbid, you lose Bukayo Saka, things start going down the toilet. I know you've got several other options, so I'm a bit conflicted. I want to lean towards midfield because for me, Arteta and Edu, you were midfielders. That should be the one area I believe in the team that I should have, assurance.
That's where all the control comes from in our system as well. Like, if you're using a 4-3-3 with 2 8s, your 6 is your most important player.
There you have it.
That's your most important chess piece. Like, and when you consider our most important chess piece is Partey, and he's also our most injury-prone player. That's a recipe for disaster. We've seen it the last 2 seasons.
We've seen that story enough times.
Got the top 4. The season before, when we went to play Villarreal in the semis, like with him and Tierney, it was the same 2 players, him and Tierney. Like, we've literally had the paper written for us. Like, for me, I think someone like a Declan Rice or Caicedo comes in, a lot younger age profile. You can rotate the 2 so that they gradually are kind of brought into that first team fold. And then they
take them 2 spots eventually.
Yeah, then they revert roles from the first team being Partey to him being the squad backup to the main guy. And I think that's where I look. That's definitely where I look first. I want
to ask you a lot as well before I ask you about Kieran Tierney. Are we ready for the Champions League then?
I think so. I can't lie to you. I genuinely do think so. I believe that Champions League, once you hear the anthem, it's a different mentality to when you're hearing like they're not really up for it, man. They hear that and they're like really again, like Thursday. I've seen some Bukayo Saka. I've seen him in the World Cup cook serious left backs. I don't need to go Champions League to be proven that Bukayo Saka can do it in Champions League. When I see people talk about like Mo Salah's top scorer or whatever, the brother was bagging versus like Rangers and whatnot. Like, I don't think we'll have any issue going Champions League. Obviously, to compete to win it, it's a different story. But
it's a different ball game. Yeah,
I'd 99% be sure that no matter what happens, we go in there next season, we get out of the groups comfortably, and then see what happens. Personally,
where you at with that, Gunnar?
I think I'm less optimistic, and I'm like the 11 is fine. Like, I think first 11 can go there and compete. Like, if they weren't competing in the league, there weren't the domestic competitions. We got to bear in mind that I think Arteta kind of gave the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup a blight, which I don't mind him doing if he's going to prioritise.
For me, that's the FA Cup, the League Cup can't.
But I think we saw yesterday that when he did, like, when you look at City, for example, like, they can like rotate 3 or 4 players from when they play in the league to when they're playing the Champions League.
And it's the way they didn't even play Kevin De Bruyne. It's different.
Yeah, and it's like where that interchanging between the 11, between the competitions is seamless. I don't think we're there yet. I think like as I said, I think Vieira's got the quality. I think Jorginho's got the quality. I think Trossard, he's probably had the most impact of the new signings. But I think we need to get more into a rhythm of making those substitutions between playing a league and a Champions League game. And what you've got to remember, we're doing very well this season. But if you compare City, who they had to play in the group stages of the Champions League, the level of competition was higher. So then the luxury that they had to rotate players in the group stages wasn't the same as the luxury that we had to rotate in the group stages. So we could rotate a lot more. So that's probably worked in our favour. In the same way that last season, not qualifying for Europe at all, worked in our favour from narrowly missing out on top 4 when really did we have the 5th best squad in England? I would say we didn't. Do you know what I mean? So I think what we need to do is we need to work on the squad gaps that we've discussed. And I think like we need to do a bit of overkill. It doesn't mean 50, 60 million pound players all the time. You can bring in some projects, but you need 2 or 3 or 4 like ready-made for the Champions League. That level of caliber of excellence, like that needs to be added. We need a bit more experience. And I think what I spoke about at the beginning of like the mindset of playing in Europe, what I worry about is games like yesterday and the games in previous years where we've gone out in Europe we shouldn't have. Is there this lingering doubt when we go to play in Europe that we can't assert ourselves in the same way that we do domestically? Because there shouldn't be. And I think if we work on all these things, then we can do well in Europe. I think these are things we would need to work on now to be ready for the Champions League, if that makes sense.
If I flip that on its head now, because it's even questioning my own logic. Obviously, whether we sign these guys is a different thing, but assuming we got Declan Rice, Caicedo, that adds into Jorginho, Thomas Partey, and everybody's at the club. Bearing in mind the players that are already at the club would have fell victim to this. Caicedo and Declan Rice, now they're 2 good players, but we mentioned the experience and those moments. Does it really change when we look past their ability? If we now slap them in the Champions League, they've never done it though. So, like, us fans being a bit harsh, can we really win in that regards then?
No, I hear what you're saying and I get your point. But we're talking, obviously, you're mentioning who they had to play in their groups and whatnot. The level is very different. I saw every single English team go through their Champions League group. I saw Tottenham go through. I saw Liverpool go through. We are, this season anyway, far superior to all of them. So that's why I say, like, group stages, I don't think we'd have an issue playing the Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday. I think it's a different vibe to playing Thursday and then like Sunday morning and whatnot. And obviously this is highly dependent on what happens from now until the end of May. Because if, let's say, you know, fingers crossed, they happen to win the league, I do believe you go in to the Champions League with that confidence of knowing like we are those guys. And you've now got a massive trophy behind you as well to justify that. You're going to play with a bit more freedom than, let's say, you were to not win the league now. So you haven't won Europa, you messed up FA Cup, Carabao, and also the league. It's going to be a bit of a different mentality, and also attracting the players that you mentioned will be much easier if you've won the league and you're now going in to try and take it up another level for me.
That makes sense, man. And that makes sense in regards, because now that I question it, as I said, I think experience is overrated, but it can't be overstated. I just feel it's that point. We just got to get that hunger, man. I just feel we're in a building block. And if we're honest, we'll probably skip some stages. I know we talk about the phases and the stages and the process and all of that, but based on the season we're having now, nobody expected it, probably Arteta himself. So we probably kind of skipped it. Just like had we have got top 4 last season, we would have bypassed it. So there's probably some naiveties from our experience that inexperienced players that need to be changed and whatnot. I wanted to ask you a lot on Kieran Tierney. I'm sure you've probably both seen the man can't buy a game. Think he's a good player and all of that stuff. I don't want to get onto Zinchenko because I'm not, but your last 2 Europa League games haven't been at your best. Is it time for Tierney to get in? Do you think Arteta will go in with him at Crystal Palace? Because his name was trending at one point on Twitter.
I'll start first and foremost. I'll be honest, no. I think against Crystal Palace, Zinchenko still plays. I think he should also play. I agree with you, especially away from home. Zinchenko's performance, I was holding my nose like that because it wasn't remarkable at all. And again, yesterday he was, I don't know, just looked very sloppy, very loose in possession. But again, we have been completely different in the league. You asked me how we played against Fulham, I'll tell you a completely different story. So it's unfortunate for Tierney. I do believe there was room for him to have played yesterday because we all went into it thinking, Emirates at home, make a couple changes, we should be calm in it. And Tierney, at that point, should probably be getting a chance to play. But I don't know what to do with him, man. We had this convo previously. I don't know what to do because I like he's a proper professional. He's clearly, I mean, someone of his level, you could imagine they'll be complaining every day, oh, why am I not playing or whatever. But I don't see that in the media that he's crying about his game time. He's been saying, listen, when I'm called upon, I'll do my best. But someone of his caliber should be starting for like a top 6, top 8 Premier League team. So if he does feel like, listen, I want to go get minutes somewhere else, then let's see him off with a nice little medal round his neck, hopefully.
Fair enough.
For me, it's a stylistic thing because, look, I think last season we was playing like Smith Rowe as the left-sided midfielder to start the season, but he was on the narrow inside kind of half space. He wasn't like hugging the touchline, and Tierney was overlapping him. And then like White was flipped. Yeah, and then like Tomiyasu was inverting into the defense, and then that's how the free shape build up into the two. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas now it's kind of flipped, where Zinchenko inverts into the midfield, and the level of control that gives you has just
different
through the roof. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the possession, you know, like winning the ball back high up the pitch. You know, sort of the incisiveness of playing balls into the final third. Sometimes he interchanges and gets close to the box or inside the box as well, just to kind of back up Xhaka and Martinelli on that side. He's even drifting. I was even seeing him drifting onto the right-hand side.
Yeah, I always call him the false right centre mid, really, everywhere.
Just like basically where he's everywhere. Like, I think that's a big part of how we play. And it's just a case of like, for the specific needs of what Arteta's asking his left back to do, like Tierney can't. Like he's
an old school man, in it, being asked to play inverted in his mid-20s. It's not going to happen too tough.
And I think I think when we play him, we do need to use kind of that more narrow inside player. But Martinelli likes to have the freedom to kind of drift outside as well and then come back inside. So I think like stylistically, is he a good profile fit for us? I don't know, but I really like him as like, I think like, you know, I echo everything that's said. Like, he's a model professional, and like I've always resonated with him because like he just works hard. He's really dogged, but he is good on the ball.
Working class, relatable footballer, arguably, with his Tesco bag and all this stuff. He comes with. Good little player he is, man.
Yeah, but like I think if there's a situation where obviously he does say, look, you know, I think, you know, I want to try something new. I don't want to stand in his way, but I don't want to force him out either, if that makes sense. But I am looking at that situation of the profile thing, and it's like, is Arteta trusting him? Because if Arteta's not trusting him as well, if Arteta doesn't feel he can fulfill the role that Zinchenko does, and Zinchenko's role, don't get it twisted, after parties is the second most important role in our system, easily, in the way that we build up. Like, him, Odegaard, and Partey are like the multi-phase controllers, where they can, like, you know, be involved. They're
like a sub team within the team, arguably.
Yeah, and the final stage part of build-up, like their interchangeability. Like, if Arteta's not feeling that he can trust Tierney to fulfill that role, then do we keep him? Like, you know, like, do we cash in?
I'm in two minds personally, man, because on one hand,
that's where I'm at. Like, you know, like,
bro, you're right. And this is where I don't know, I'm conflicted, because on one hand, I love the class that we have at the club. We do this gentleman thing and things like that. But we've seen, even Arsene Wenger used to, all the time, Patrick Vieira used to cry about money and wanting to go clubs and all these things, and we used to keep him. On one hand, I want to be nice to Tino, put arm around him and say, do you know what, if you want to leave, you've been a good servant. Like A was saying, ideally, he leaves with a Premier League, etc. And again, if he doesn't want to be here, then we can only have players that want to be here, even though it'd be different for Tierney. But at the same time, if we were trying to buy Tierney from, let's say, Newcastle, they're not cutting us no favors. It doesn't matter what team in the top 6 you support. Newcastle are going to come cause problems. He's in his mid-20s. He's contracted until 2026. Like one of the comments says here, shout out Lemon. He said, you know, where was the comment? Yeah, Tierney was once spoken about being captain material. Now we forget him because Zinchenko. You look at when, you know, if you go on Arsenal.com and see when we signed Tierney, the way he signed his new deal, the way they spoke about him was ridiculous. and I want to get top money for him. But at the same time, I want to say to him, listen, like since you've signed here, you've been our first choice left back. The team's evolving. Fight for your place. Cool, you might never be Zinchenko, but Zinchenko might never be you. If Zinchenko, not that I want it to happen, plays like he's played in the last 2 sporting games, it might become irrelevant. So come and take back your spot, and we're going to be in the Champions League. You know, where if you move to another club, definitely in this country, you're not going to get that really and truly based on the teams linked to you. Leicester are not doing that. Newcastle might get there. I'd rather them do it than a couple of the other clubs. So I don't know where I'm at.
Yeah. Certainly Spurs, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it'd be absolute fool.
Yeah, United out that one personally, but yeah, that's another story. But
I would say might go Newcastle for what it's worth. If they genuinely want you, I would, because you're closer to Scotland, exciting project, you're gonna play, and all of these things. And arguably, like we spoke about Zinchenko's role being a niche. I'm sure there are other guys that can do that out there, and I'm sure Arsenal scouting. But to me, as an ignorant fan, I can't sit here and say Joe Bloggs, this guy, inverted left back, all of these sort of things. I can't even really tell you an inverted right back, which probably the next step, to be fair to Benjamin White and Tomiyasu. So we're going to sell a man and probably have to invest that on the next man before. I'd assume Tierney would leave before we've addressed midfield, addressed up front, addressed right back or whatever. So we're making it harder. And, one thing I liked about Arteta, he always banged on about pre-season to the point where I used to think he was moaning and stuff. When I see the pre-season you've just had and, the elevation we've gone on and stuff, I understand the importance. And we got all our players in early, relatively. Zinchenko there early, part of the tour. Jesus as well. Fair enough, Fabio Vieira was injured, but he was mixing it with the lads and seeing whatever. I know it doesn't always work like that. But I kind of want the nucleus of our squad, bearing in mind people can leave all the time. Wherever we're going, I don't even know what country we're going next year, but wherever we're going, I want that decided. And I want to keep Tierney, really. But if the man wants to go, he wants to go. What do you lot make of Saliba and Tomiyasu's injuries then? I know we kind of touched on it at the start, but what do you feel the impact of that is? Obviously, Arteta's probably going to have his press conference tomorrow. For me, it looked more peak for Tomiyasu, and I'm sure you've seen the images of being on a crutch. Saliba, there's bare whispers. What some people saying the back, some people saying thigh. I don't know, man. If I had to take a guess, I hope Saliba's back for at least Liverpool away. I don't know for Tomiyasu his peak. If I'm
Liverpool away, have they updated since? Because I don't even know.
No, we got Leeds, we got Palace. Why I say Liverpool is because we got Palace, then Leeds, bearing in mind the international break, and then Liverpool. Again, I don't like to do this. We should be getting away with rotations and things because we saw it bite us in the arse yesterday. But we should be able to do something against Palace if Holding has to step in at centre back and Leeds respectfully to Holding. I need Saliba at Anfield, innit? Like I need him. I need it. Unless Tomiyasu's fit, which I can't. I need him there, innit? I
need Saliba. Well, ideally, I need Saliba now, fam.
Yeah. Like
I needed him yesterday, bro. I needed him yesterday. You know what I mean, like.
But listen, Tomiyasu.
I wish I'm the one who got injured, let alone Saliba, man. God, why did you do that?
It's a tough one because with Tomiyasu, like we've mentioned today, last season he was great for us, and even this season against Mo Salah. Like he was one of the main reasons why we beat Liverpool at the Emirates.
Another reason for it could be
his season seems to be 2-2 stop start. So his is not as massive a loss as Saliba's would be if Saliba's is gonna be a few weeks here and there. Like I'd be very concerned. I know guys, they saw Rob Holding clear the ball lots yesterday. I'd be majorly concerned if I saw Robert Holding starting like week in, week out for the rest of the season. And
it's not a disrespect to him. It's just the realities of the levels that we're trying to go on.
Yeah. So I really hope that Saliba. I mean, he seemed like he was on good vibes and that, but before the shootout started, we have no idea in it. We don't know what the scans are saying. We don't have any info at all. It might have just been a precautionary thing. I don't know. I
hope so. I hope so. I need that to be
and I wouldn't be surprised, but I just need to make sure that it ain't a more than 2 week thing, because then you're looking at having to get your match fitness back, and then it can end up being the end of April by now. No.
You're hoping nothing happens to Benjamin White, because who's going to play right back? Is Nelson going to do it like he used to do it there for Arsene Wenger? Do we have to even change systems and play like a right wing back, be a bit cute with it?
Bro, we're going to have to start yelling for Marseille. Nuno Tavares, what you on, bro?
I don't know about that. Stay where you are, Tavares, man. Stay over them sides, man.
Like obviously, like he allows you to play the high line. Because when you go into that 2 shape, because they got the athleticism and the pace, if the counter transitions break down, and they turn into counter transitions for the opposition, and they try and play over the top of your back line, like Saliba and Gabriel have the athleticism and the pace to be able to compensate for that. Like, and a lot of people were calling out Ramsdale for his positioning for the goal.
Which
But-
wasn't the best one. Come on. Nine
No,
times
it
out of 10,
was-
nothing happens. It's not his
it
fault. We
definitely
lost it in
wasn't.
midfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame
But
him for that.
if I put it to you like this, yeah, Saliba was subbed off, so Holding was put on. So if you're trying to use the same build-up shape here, then if a ball goes behind, Holding doesn't have the same capacity recovery-wise.
That's why Holding
to be able
gets
to
tight
eat
half
up
the
ground.
time.
So that's why Ramsdale was probably like a few further yards higher up. Do you see what I mean? Like, I think
No, you're right. Facts.
you cannot categorically miss Saliba for that Liverpool game. We can't.
This is what I'm saying. Because Anfield's not a nice place, regardless of it's not a nice place for us. So it doesn't really matter what's happening for them. And really, if you look at a couple of our bogey grounds this season, we've done well at Spurs and other grounds, but Goodison Park, we don't travel well there historically. It didn't happen for us. Old Trafford, the same. Southampton, the same. I don't want that theme to continue against Liverpool. Obviously, you hope that, you know, I think I speak for both of you. We'll always support Rob Holding or anyone that steps on the shirt. We hope for a blinder. We have seen it before, but it's sad. You saw what, you know, to be fair, at the time when he came off against Manchester City, we was goalless, if I remember correctly. But you saw what Haaland did to him, and Holding knows exactly. We can't tell Holding anything more about Liverpool than him. He's been there. He's been savage. He's part of half of them Mohamed Salah and Mane highlights. So it's peak. So I arguably, do we even, now that I think about it, could it be a thing we even need another right-sided centre-back? I know the luxury of Tomiyasu, now that there's been 2 injuries, he's someone that can move over there. Kyrgios here. I don't know if Arteta would play 2 left-footed centre-backs. I don't see anything wrong with it. But surely you could even need another centre-back, really. But we can't really waffle about it because it's not here. So it's fair to say you lot are saying that the impacts of both of them, more so Saliba, is dead. Kind of trying to keep it on a bright note, though. Jesus is back, though. Done all right yesterday. I know it doesn't mean anything. What do you lot make of him? What do you lot make of Arteta's comments about he has to work hard to get his name back in the starting 11?
I think it's a smart thing to say, but he knows deep down, brother, Gabriel Jesus, if he's fit, he's playing. Like, you say that to the media to be like, okay, look, everyone, you're gonna get your turn or whatnot, but he knows damn well, Gabriel Jesus, you are the man, and then it's about, is it gonna be Martinelli or Trossard, and then of course Saka is gonna stay there. I seen a comment just now, by the way. I was gonna say his name as well. I was gonna say, listen, I can't lie, I rate Rob Holding thing, but you go and bring me Ruel Walters instead, because I'm not trying to see.
You know what, young man will get savaged out there, but there's
Nah,
nothing else.
I trust him. I trust him because Rob Holding,
he's a conservative little fullback, so he could do all right. Obviously, professional football is a different ballgame. He ain't got nothing else.
When he's like, he gets a bit emotional at times, innit? Like, it worked against Diego Costa about 6 or 7 years ago.
Spurs, though.
Like, yeah, the Spurs one, it didn't bang. Man City, I wasn't really
even been Cedric's time to shine. Now I'm capping.
Yeah, so it's a weird one. But on the Jesus thing, like you said, I'm very happy he's back. There's a smile on my face when I see him do the little flick and then running behind. I know he's gonna miss anyway, but it's fine by me. Like, you keep doing your thing, bro. Like, I like it. I like it. One of these days,
the Brazilian sauce, I hear it. Man.
One of these days, you're gonna score, and when you do, I'll be there, bro. I'll be there, knee sliding on my carpet. So it's good having back, and of course, it does allow. I want to see how him and Trossard can develop, because I love Martinelli. That's my guy. Yeah. I'm just intrigued to see how that dynamic would work as well, because I know Martinelli is going to be bagging non-stop with Jesus back as well. So we'll see what happens. Second half, it was strange for me, because without Jesus here, I don't know why, but for Trossard was probably less convincing than usual. Like, the previous month or two, Trossard
the shape from Sporting kind of killed our attacking players watching the game again, really, because they're not really giving space when man are linking up and running, just not even running to receive the ball, just making space. Like Trossard and Jesus, in terms of like our wingers and attackers, probably give or take with Saka, but I'd say them two are the most experienced, most intelligent, most in terms of speed of thought. Naturally, I agree with that, because I think he lost a bit there. We knew Jesus would probably get 45 an hour max. And I agree with the comment there. Like, it looked like we lost something. You're going to lose something when Jesus comes off, innit? And I agree with that. We lost that stuff from the front. And maybe that sort of talismanship as well. I know Jorginho and Zinchenko weren't able to bring that yesterday. But Jesus, these are the magical players for these magical moments, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
As crazy as this sounds, though, I'm not sure we should have started him yesterday. Not because of, like, the quality-wise. I think, there's every logic to what you're saying, bro. In terms of, like, coming back from injury, playing a European tie, I think, like, if you knew you was only going to play him for 45 minutes, like, Trossard's just had the game of his life at Fulham. like with him and Martinelli playing like as they were, I just feel like maybe that was a part I wouldn't have changed, because the thing is, like, then you could have used him at the end if he was needed, and then you could have kept him fresh for the Palace game, like, and then you got the international break. Just give him that little buffer, because he just come back from his injury. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to like kind of like rush him back. Give him that little buffer of just use him as sparingly as possible until that international break, and then start ramping up the minutes that he plays after the international break, just so he's had that little extra rest. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, like obviously he did very good, but I think like maybe that affected Trossard as well, like confidence wise, where it's just like, well, I've just played the game of my life, and now like
I'm on the bench.
I'm coming in, like, like, you know, I think maybe if I'm nitpicking, that's something that I have brought up with my mates. And
No, I think you're right in that. I kind of think I agree with everything you said, especially, you know, with the way you put it. I feel to a degree in Arteta's defense, kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, really. Because as much as I want him to play other man and start other man and do all these things, had the result of went the same, we would have probably said, why did you start this and that? Had Jesus have come on in the second half, he would have had that extra half an hour, and that could have had repercussions. But now that you put it like that, it could have been an impact player for us. So to round this up then, like, what's you lot's thoughts going into Crystal Palace then?
The news this morning has made me a bit more nervous than I was meant to be.
Sad news for Vieira, man.
I start thinking about what happened at Everton. However, we are...
No, Patrick's gone, isn't it?
All right, yeah. All right, yeah. Okay,
yeah. But however, we are at home. The issue I have now is, for whatever reason, there is a reason, it's because teams are more likely to play out. But when we go away, I feel more confident now, because I was there live for that Bournemouth game, thinking, we're going to win 4-0, and then we end up having...
God said, I'm going to show you why football's the greatest game on earth.
Yeah,
mate.
so
like,
I can't see out. Like, crush it on Palace. I'd like to think we do, but who knows? I'm confident still, just slightly less than I was, because I thought with Vieira, like, you know, he might do us a cheeky favour. Not that he has to do that much, because his Palace team aren't really cooking. But as long as Saliba's back, if he is somehow, I'm very happy, because I don't see Jordan Ayew doing too much as a Ghanaian man.
Guys, these rubbish players always morph against our club and turn into Ronaldo, the Brazilian man.
I don't think we've beaten Palace in the last 4 home games. I was there like last season, the last minute Lacazette clutch equaliser. Like their away fans, they're noisy. Do you know what I mean? Like,
have you been to Crystal Palace at home? That's one of the best away games I've been to. Them man are something else, man.
This is when Zaha was still cooking, though. I think he's kind of gone off the boil a little bit. Like, he's kind of...
Zaha, if you're listening, allow us, please.
There, you're an Arsenal fan, bro. Like, we're dogs. Spud me, Zaha, bro.
That's it, man. It's a solid, man.
You nice, maybe we can think about a little loan or something just to end your career. But come on, man. Right, man.
But yeah, I think it's definitely a must win. We've got to put that 8-point situation on City. Like, we've got to put the pressure on them. I think anything less than a win in that game, City will sniff blood. You know, like, I think
long international break to sit and think about this as well. It's scary, man.
The next game's Liverpool. Now, it can go one of 2 ways. Liverpool were playing terribly, beat them at Anfield, then lost to Nottingham Forest. That's a different story. But, you know, like, Liverpool has shown Man United stuck 7 past them. You know, like, it's weird. Like, they're the Robin Hoods of the Premier League. You know what I mean? They will quite happily go rob these points from the rich, and then go give them to
there's two charity FC and the rest. That's a great one.
Brighton, a little Brentford or whatever. Like, so you never know. They might go to the Etihad, you know, like, and, you know, sort of bring out the spirit of like the previous 2-3 years of Liverpool. Go get a little something there, then, you know what I mean. But if we make it an 8-point situation, then City, the magnitude, like the mindset that they have when they're playing that game is completely different. You know what I mean? Like, we have to win, and like that pressure, I don't know. Do they buckle under it? You know, because City have looked like they can drop points, or they have been. They've been dropping points this season. 4 draws, 4 losses. You know, they I can't remember the last time they had that many in both departments in a season. So I think we have to win that game. There's no excuses. We have to, and I think yeah, for me, I think if we can, we're putting ourselves in a very good position.
You're right, man. And for me, like I agree with both of you lot. Said I think we have to win. You know, the manager and the captain Odegaard have said it's 11 cup finals. Play like it now, because that's all we've got to salvage the season. Have we not? If we don't get silverware, I'll be proud of what you did domestically. But for the players, you know, when you look retire 20, 30 years, are you going to waffle about having a good season or a medal to show your grandkids? So get that one done. As you said, an 8-point gap would be healthy. You know, we'd almost have a 2-week break where we can consider what we've done well, what we've done bad, what we can do. It's always a nasty one if you lose just before the international break, on top of obviously what happened to us on Thursday. So I want to see a reaction. I'm a bit keen to see Arteta's thoughts on actually the team news, because as much as I think, you know, I agree with you, like, we're at home, we need to win. There's, you know, Palace are fighting for their lives for one. They've got some attacking players that can cause us problems, especially if we ain't got our first choice defense. As you both said, you know, when you got the high line, when you leave yourself as a byproduct of how we play, susceptible on this on the counter attacks in the transition. When you've got Zinchenko, who, you know, walks about in a nice way in midfield. Palace have some nice little players, and this managerial bounce business scares me. But if I had to go with what I genuinely believe, I think 2-0/2-1 Arsenal. But I don't think it's going to be easy. But I don't care how we do it. We just need to win, because
We got to put
11 cup finals. You say?
We got to put the ghost to bed of last season as well. Because obviously we played Palace around the same time last season after the international break, 1 or 2 injuries, and that started a 3-game run, I think.
This is what I'm saying. We're just doing funny business. It gets long for us, man.
It would be nice just to kind of, I think like that would be like mentally, that would be a big thing for the players that were
more
involved
than anything
in that
mentally.
period of last season. Like, I think it would be like, this is where we've come from. This is where we are. Do you know what I mean? Whereby last season, like in a season definitive moment where we probably went into that game thinking it'll be easier than it was, and we got humbled. Like this season, we've come out on top. Momentum is on our side, and yeah, I think that'll be a psychological boost for the players for sure.
So what's your lot starting 11?
Ramsdale, obviously. Ben White. There's something that tells me that Saliba wasn't that bad. If
I hope you're right. Whoever's telling you that, I hope you're right.
I get a feeling. You know what I mean, like it didn't look that crazy. It could be like a precautionary,
Saliba, man.
But if not, okay, cool. Rob Holding, Gabriel, Zinchenko, the rest self-explanatory, but I'll do it anyway. Thomas Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, and then I think I would probably start with Martinelli and Trossard, see how it's going. And then, like you said, regarding using Jesus sparingly, second half, you come and get 45 or whatever. So pretty much what we saw against Fulham, just depending on if Saliba's going to be about or not.
I don't know where you at.
Yeah, I think that pretty much it'll be the same. You know, I think maybe do you try? I mean, like, no. I mean, Martinelli obviously missed the penalty. I don't know. Like, do you protect him maybe and like start Trossard and Jesus and then bring Martinelli?
The best thing is to forget about it now. Just play.
Will that damage his confidence? I don't know, but like, I think that's the only thing I would probably look at from that lineup. Yeah, the rest.
If anything, I think he should start because of that. I think you tell him, listen, it's a penalty. It happens. Move on.
Whatever happened with Saka, he went on a mad run. Martinelli, it's your time, man. These things make you, man. If you score the winner on Sunday, it's not that nobody cares, but you're a hero in it, really and truly. I agree with what you said. If he's on the bench, probably something more. I am flirting between Jesus starting again. I think Gunnar made a great point earlier about, you know, managing the workload and the minutes and all of that. And now that you've said that, because you presented a lot of logic, I'm a bit wary about Jesus. I kind of have to calm myself down with just wanting to see him from a fan perspective.
We don't just so infectious down before that Liverpool game. Like whatever happens,
this is it. Yeah, we have to be cute and clever with these players. So I'll probably go with the same lineup as Fulham if we're permitted, to be honest.
Same time though, like what you said, I hear what you said about the Sporting game, definitely. And logically, looking back at it now with hindsight, it definitely makes sense. But at the same time, I will allow Arteta on that because clearly, if Jesus was ready, I think you'd rather you're at home, lock it up.
Probably giving him the gaffer, I'm fit, man.
And then you'll have your rest. Rather than, let's say, if we were to be losing 1-0, just by example, if we're losing 1-0 and now you're bringing on Jesus to come and play and fight for his life. And I think I understand why he started him to try and lock it off from early. This time, this is why I say it's techie, because I just want Martinelli to start purely because of the penalty. I want him to play again, and he's in form as well, to be honest. Trossard as well after Fulham. I think keep the same as Fulham. Try and treat it as an away game somehow. I don't know how they're going to do that.
Get back to the level. I think we just, honestly, I think the sporting game for me, just a case of getting back to basics. Like the most annoying thing, like yesterday, and it's something that we haven't done. One man is winning the header, winning the first. Everybody's just watching for the second, and you play with fire, you're going to get burnt. So I just think we need to go back to basics, really and truly. Again, obviously, if there's injuries, it forces Mikel Arteta's hand, but honestly, I just think we got to get with it. If you don't win this game, then obviously it's going to make it worse. Sometimes the best time to get over something is just to get on with it, really and truly, and then use the international break to reflect on all of those things. I can't lie. Final question for you, look. I don't want to keep you lot long. Apparently, Arsenal have been linked with Gundogan. Whether that's true or not is up to you lot. But you lot having him?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think Pep is letting us have him, but I think if he does. If something tells him, yeah, do you know what? Have another one of our players. I don't know what kind of friendship he's got with Arteta like that to be giving us players.
I think Gundogan's contract actually expires at the end of the season, so I don't think Pep would have a choice.
In his agent and that.
Oh yeah. No, you're right.
Down, so I don't think it's a choice thing. I think and I think like going into the Champions League, you bring him in. He's been on that stage. Been there, done it. He's obviously bringing the winning experience and mentality that Zinchenko and Jesus had, and more. And I think because obviously he's done it with Germany as well, and you kind of bring him in, and I think what we need to do is kind of build up that leadership core now. Like I think you got Jorginho there, you got Jesus and Zinchenko, who between them have got probably a completed cabinet of trophies. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like the Carabao Cup, Club World Cup, Super Cup, Champions League, all the domestic trophies the City players have got. You bring Gundogan in as well. Like you're kind of building out that core of players that are actually winners.
Guys that know how to do it.
Know what it takes to get across the line and that are kind of like breeding that into the youngsters. Like kind of like helping to cultivate that winning culture. Within the likes of your Sakas, your Martinellis, your ESRs, your Odegaards, your Whites, your Salibas, your Gabriels, your Ramsdales, your Tomiyasus. I think because all those players I named, a number of them are emerging leaders anyway.
And also a couple of players that ain't been named as well. I think that's a theme of what Mikel Arteta is doing. Everyone, you look through our squad, to be fair, everyone's a little leader in their own way, really. Gabriel, Ramsdale, Benjamin. I think Benjamin actually don't get enough credit for that, really. Martin Odegaard, as you said, with the ex-City lads, what Jorginho's done. Obviously, Granit Xhaka, a big part of him is being a leader. We've all seen the All or Nothing documentary. I actually look at someone like Fabio Vieira indirectly. I wouldn't say you're a leader, but you've been at Porto where they've been challenging for the title and things like that. There's little experiences that you could potentially share, and there's probably a couple of other players that none of us have mentioned. So I like that, really. And one thing I've liked about Arteta, and you said it earlier, Gunnar, where you said it's drummed into the players. Someone can take you to the water, as we all know, but you have to drink it. And it looks like the players fully comprehend that. Like nobody needs to tell them certain things. They know if they've done well, let themselves down. And they, even when we've done perfect, I hear little things from Odegaard and Vieira and Arteta. Sorry, like, yeah, we scored these goals, but we conceded this. We've got to do that. It's kind of breeding no complacency, which probably indirectly crept in on Thursday, but we're making progress, man. You two, let people know where they can find you. Hey, you're always here, but nonetheless, you go as well. And Gunner King, of course. Make sure you're subscribing and following the MANDEM on their platforms.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, man. I mean, as I was saying, I'm one of the co-founders of the Armoury TV, and big group of us. We're obviously growing. And mostly TikTok as well, Gunner King 14. So I do a lot of like posting content on there, like short content, but also I do a lot of live streams on there as well with like other Arsenal fans or even fans from other fan bases. And like my Instagram, I'm going to start doing a lot more on there. But yeah, it's like mainly the Armoury TV and TikTok, and my Twitter as well, actually, which is the same handle, Gunner King 14.
Come on. And again, people, all information of both these lads will be in the description once this video is obviously done and processing. Hey, You still got to tell them, man. You're Mr. Champions League, Premier League, Twitch 11, that man. Come on, stop being humble, man.
Never that. Nah, just literally type in a menu on Twitch, Twitter, whatever. I'll be there. You can even find me at the Emirates on Sunday. I'll be there as well. So there you go. Just type in my name on any socials. I do like weekly football podcasts about everything, not just Arsenal. It's football as a whole. Twitch is just a bit of FIFA, a bit of FM, whatever I feel like, to be honest with you. So yeah, much love as per usual. It's an honor to be on this platform. Whenever I get the call up, I'm just there like, wow, this is this guy. I start telling my mom like, yo, do you know where I'm gonna be on Friday?
Don't do that, man. Don't do that, man. Don't do that, man. But yeah, on that note, make sure you're subscribing and following the MANDEM on all the platforms. Appreciate both of you of being tuned in. People, make sure you're following, you're taking in the content. And remember, obviously we lost, but life goes on. Hopefully on Sunday, when everyone's talking about the game, is positive news, man. But we're all going to love and leave you. People, we're out.
There's always just that active red flag, defenders. I think it's like